This video is brought to you by Michaels. This is a project I did last year, actually, that is starting to turn into a holiday tradition for me. I take small wood ring slices, hang them on strings, and then I use them as little canvases that I can paint on and then put on my Christmas tree. Last year, my wood ring ornaments were handmade, but if you don't have the privilege of having a woodworker spouse like I do that has access to lumber and tools and all that kind of stuff, the exact same thing is available at Michaels craft stores in a bunch of different wood types. I chose the birch wood because I love the bark texture and the color. For this project, I've also decided to fulfill a childhood holiday fantasy of mine. I got myself a huge art supply gift set. This one is by Artist Loft, which is a brand I pretty regularly use and know that I love. If you have any crafty kids in your life or adults wanting to get into painting, this is a phenomenal gift idea. Links for the supplies will be listed in the description. This set comes with multiple types of painting mediums, so I chose to use the acrylic paints to make this little ornament. Before I started painting on my ornament, I wanted to add a protective layer between the wood and my final painting. This isn't a necessary step, but I prefer to do this so that I have a smoother surface to work on top of, and my colors stay vibrant and don't soak into the wood. I use a white gesso by Liquitex, but you can also use plain white acrylic, or you don't have to use it at all. I did 2 layers, letting it dry fully between each, so I knew I had a solid base to work on top of. Then I started creating my painting. I wanted to make a snowy sunset painting because I love how much the colors of the setting sun reflect on snow landscapes. Winter sunsets are like super vibrant and beautiful. When I work with acrylics, I usually tend to work in layers, so the first thing I paint is the sky color and the ground. I gave the sky a pretty orange, red, yellow gradient, and the snowy ground a warm purple hue. I try to get in as much background detail as I can before I add my foreground elements, but as you'll see later, I continue to tweak the background even after I have the foreground nearly finished, so don't worry about having it final. On the ground, I add some subtle color changes to try and give the illusion of depth. The subtle highlighting and shadowing of the ground gives the idea that the ground is not completely flat or even, so the light hits those areas in slightly different ways. I also throw in a very, very light wiggly line in the center to indicate that there may be a small stream running through the snow in the background, as well as a couple little lines, like maybe there's some grass sticking out of the snow. This is a very, very subtle detail that you'll barely notice when the whole thing is finished, but it makes a big difference to the overall finished piece, I think. After I'm happy enough with the background, I add in my foreground and main focus of this piece, which are the silhouetted birch trees. I thought it might be cute to paint the same kind of trees that my little wood ornament came from. For the trees, I mix up a very, very dark purple and draw out where I want all the trunks to be with my paint. After I'm happy with the trunk placement, with a very, very thin brush, I start to carefully draw out a bunch of very, very thin branches to fill up the sky space, being careful not to cover up my sun though, because I want that to be a big focal point. Once the branches are done, the painting is about 90% finished, but that last 10% can really bring that painting to life. In this stage, I take a step back and look at what I can improve on in this painting, and I do things like add more contrast to my snow banks in the background, and I darken some of my snow shadows. I also go in with some more details on the trunk of my trees to really give them that birch bark look with the striping, quote unquote striping, that birch trees have, so they can look a little more distinctly like birch. I keep adding little details and making color tweaks in this phase until I'm totally happy with this project. In total, this painting took me about an hour-ish to complete, and now I have more painted landscape ornaments to add to my tree this year. As always, the full-length version of this painting will be available on Patreon for all of my lovely donators there. If you have any thoughts or questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.